was on Reddit the other day and I came across this story that was so creepy. And the dude, he was talking about how since he was a little kid, he was always afraid of the supernatural, or the paranormal rather. Like always afraid of things that go bump in the night. And it was kind of embarrassing how even as he got older, that never really went away. But when he got into college, he met this woman and he fell hard for her. He fell hard enough for her actually to marry her. So they get married and they pretty much got the type of relationship where they best friends. And life pretty much going good until one night he wake up in the middle of the night. And when he look over to the side of the bed and see that his wife ain't there, he like, where the hell is she? But he hears water running in the bathroom and he assumed, oh, she must be in there. So he go downstairs because he need him something to drink. And he like, the hell? Because he see his wife down there drinking water. And he a little confused, but, you know, he shake it off. And he get him some water, mumble about it being hot. And he like, you know, come back up and join me in bed. But he leave her, go upstairs. And when he get to the room, his wife is already asleep in the bed. So now this wake him up a little bit more. He going to tap her and wake up and say, hey, won't you get downstairs? And she half asleep and she a little annoyed and she like, you must just be tired. Like get in the bed with me. He don't think none of it and go to sleep. So the next day when they get up, she think about it and she tease him a little bit. She's like, oh, last night she was tweaking. You so timid, you so afraid of the paranormal that you think you seeing stuff. You thought you saw me in the kitchen, but I really was in the bathroom. You was in the bathroom. And he like, oh, okay. And he don't think too much of it. He like, maybe I was dreaming or something. He brush it off. So a week go by, and it's a Saturday morning, fresh, bright, early in the morning. And his wife tells him that she wants to go get some groceries so they can have breakfast together. And she leave. So he get up, you know, he take his shower and everything. And he goes down to the kitchen to start preparing the table and everything so she could cook. And when he go down there, he see her down there in the corner by the sink drinking water. And he like, oh, when did you get back? You got back quick. And she don't say nothing. She just smile at him. So while he's sitting there thinking like, why is she being weird? All of a sudden the doorbell ring. So he leave in the kitchen, he go and answer the door. When he open the door, guess who's standing there? His wife with bags full of groceries. So now he in shock and he just standing there dumbfounded. And she don't know what's going on, so she kind of like, are you gonna help me? But she noticed that he didn't turn pale, like pale. And he like, I this time I know I'm not dreaming. It's broad daylight. I'm wide awake. And he like, I just saw you in the kitchen. And he said that them pretty green eyes of hers, well, this was the first time that they actually looked off, that they actually creeped him out, and that he didn't feel safe. And when she peeped how he was looking at her, and after he said that, she was like, okay, we need to sit down. I have something I need to tell you. So they go to the couch and they sit down and she's saying, listen, I'm sorry. I should have told you this a long time ago. But you're not the only one who experienced this. As a matter of fact, when I was younger, my family claimed they used to see me all the time when I actually wasn't there, or seeing me in multiple places at once. But since nothing bad ever happened, they took it as normal. So he's hearing this and he's trying to take it in. And, you know, he processed it and eventually he accepted. But at the same time, who really accepted it as normal? But whatever it is, what it is. And things continue to happen. He'll see her sitting on the bed, then go downstairs and see her cooking in the kitchen. But one thing he made note of was that whenever he saw her, he didn't see both of her at once. Like there was never an overlap. He also made sure that he pointed out that it never spoke to him. That it never spoke at all. That it would just look at him and smile. But other than that, it never really interacted with him, and he ain't interact with it. And his wife never told him what to call it. And he ain't know what to call it either. But eventually he referred to it as just the entity. and learned to live with it just like her family did. That is until one day, everything changed. It was a Sunday morning just like any other Sunday morning, and his wife told him that she wanted to go visit her parents and asked him if he wanted to tag along. But he told her no, it's a Sunday. He just want to stay in and relax. So she like, okay, baby, and left him to do him while she went to go see her parents. He was sitting in the living room, and he decided he wanted to get a snack out of the kitchen. And when he goes into the kitchen, he sees the entity. But he's used to it by now, so he's just like, hey. But this time something different happened. The phone rang. And he answered the phone, and he hears his wife's voice. And as soon as shit, I didn't scare myself. As soon as he hears her voice, he hears glass shatter. And it prompts him to turn around, and he see this thing, and them pretty green eyes again terrify him, but this time it's because they not green no more. They black, and her mouth is twisted. And he says that her head is bent almost in a perfect 90-degree angle, and it's pointing at him. And his wife heard the glass shatter too. So she on the phone like, what the hell was that? Was that you? Are you okay? And he like, no, it was her. Once he said that, she immediately started screaming, don't look at it. Don't look at it. Look away. Hang up the phone. So that's what he did. He hung up the phone, closed his eyes, and looked away. And a few seconds later, when he opened them and turned back around, she was gone. So he called his wife back. And he's like, what the hell is going on? And she said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. They said that we'd never overlap. We'd never overlap. And he like, who is they? What are you talking about? So she told him, I'm rushing home right now, and I'll explain everything when I get there. And they got off the phone. And all he could do was sit and wait. But in that moment, he realized that the person that he trusted and felt safest with all this time was the person he feared the most. So the wife rushed home, and when she got there, he like, okay, you need to start talking. And again, she was like, I'm so sorry. You don't deserve this. I'd never purposely put you in harm's way, but they told me that me and her would never overlap. And again, he's like, they? Who is they? And she's like, my family. It was only one other time that this happened. And he like, okay. She said, well, when I was younger, I was very sheltered. Like I said, my family was used to this thing. It only seemed to show itself to loved ones. But because of that, I couldn't really go spend the night at friends' houses, and they couldn't come over because my family was afraid that they might come across this thing. But one day they gave in, and they let my best friend come over to spend the night. And she was in my room, and I came upstairs. And when I was coming upstairs, walking to my room, I heard her talking to someone and laughing. And as I approached the door, she saw me in the mirror. She saw a reflection of me. And when she saw me, all I remember is this confused look on her face. And then I heard a scream that could make a heart stop. And the door slammed. And I ran up to the door. I'm banging on the door. And I'm telling her, don't look at it. Look away. Look away. And all I could hear is her screaming, no, no. And then silence. And the door opened slowly. And the room was dark. So I cautiously walked in. And I faintly whispered her name while feeling for the light switch. She didn't respond, but once I found the light switch, I turned the light back on. And she was sitting in the corner crying. I slowly walked up to her and put my hand on her shoulder. And I said, are you okay? When she looked up, she said, I can't see. I can't see. Whatever this thing was, it made her go blind. Then she said the last thing she remembers seeing is her. Except them pretty green eyes were pitch black. Her mouth was twisted, and she was just pointing at her. And that's all she remembered. Then his wife said, but it hasn't been an overlap ever since. Not till today. And he thought about it. He said, I'm actually surprised that it took this long to happen. But she said she was told that it would never intentionally try to overlap. But then he asked her, what is it? She's like, I don't know. Nobody ever told me. I don't know. I just remember when I was younger, my great-grandparents talking about it, saying that it happened with another family member. So honestly, if we wanted to find out more, we'd probably have to go visit them. So fortunately, it turns out that her great-grandmother actually lives about 3 hours away. So they made a plan that they'd get up early and they'd go ask her some questions. And then they go to bed. The next morning, his wife wakes him up and tells him that breakfast is ready and to meet her downstairs. So he get up, he washes his face, brush his teeth, then he turns the corner to go downstairs and almost falls backwards because she's standing right there drinking orange juice. So he's like, oh my God, you can't scare me like that. And she just says, sorry. And then they go downstairs. But then they decide they actually don't have an appetite because they're still shaking up from last night. So they get in the car and they start towards our great-grandmother's house for their 3-hour drive. Now, he made it a point to mention that the whole car ride, he was holding his wife's hand, and that he felt safe and secure, and every so often, she would squeeze his hand, or he would squeeze it back, just as a bit of reassurance. And he said some time went by, and he started getting a call on his phone. And when he looked down at that caller ID, it was his wife's name. And as soon as he read his wife's name, he started feeling his hand being squeezed tighter and tighter. And that's when he realized this whole time, he wasn't with his wife. As soon as he saw his wife's name on the caller ID, he began to feel his hand get squeezed tighter and tighter. And in his peripheral, he could already see this thing changing. And he could hear his neck cracking. But he answered the phone anyway. And as soon as he answered, his wife screamed, "That's not me! That's not me!" And he said as soon as he heard his wife's voice, he heard that glass shattering sound again. But this time it was like he could feel it inside of him. And his hand started to burn. But he remembered not to look at it. And he heard his wife say, "Is it gone?" And he said, "Yeah." So he like, this don't make any sense. What happened? And she told him, "I don't know. When I woke up, I was under the bed, like somebody knocked me out and stuffed me under the bed. And then I came from under there. I'm looking around and I couldn't find you. That's when I realized what must have happened. And that's when I immediately called you." But he's confused because as far as he knew, this thing never spoke to him, never spoke at all. But now it's drinking orange juice and saying sorry and telling him breakfast ready. Now it can leave the house. It's like this thing is evolving and it's able to trick him. He thinks to himself, how he gonna be able to tell them apart now? And then he feel that burning sensation in his hand again. And he looked down, and in his hand, it's burned the words "lucky." So he tell her, "Listen, stay on the phone with me. Do not get off this phone with me." And they continue to drive until they make it to her grandma's house. And when she first walks up to him, she pulls a lighter out of her pocket. And then she burns her palm. And she says, "If you ever doubt it's me, now hopefully you can tell the difference." They start walking up to her grandma's house. And it's kind of creepy and it's quiet. But they ring the doorbell. And nobody answers. Then his wife hears someone scream. And he don't hear it. But he changed his mind. He, like, maybe we can figure out something else. I don't think it's a good idea to go in here. But she like, "No, we need to. So he decided to jiggle the doorknob, and it's unlocked. Now he opens the door, and his wife walks in first. And as he's following after her, he puts his foot kind of in the door and doesn't go all the way in. Because again, this man been scared all his life. He done seen all the movies. He like, this not finna happen to me. And as soon as he puts his foot in and peeks in after his wife, she gets collapsed on the floor and passes out. So he like, what the hell? And he kind of scrunched down with his foot still in the door. But he tapping her like, baby, wake up. Are you okay? And when he looks up, he's skimming the room. And he realizing it looked like ain't nobody lived here for a very long time. And then he looks on the walls. And it's these weird red symbols. Then he turns his head to the hallway. And he sees his wife. Eyes black, head bent, mouth twisted, and pointing. So, with his foot still in the door, he already knows what to do. He looks away, and at the same time, he's putting his arms under his wife and trying to drag her out. And he's able to maneuver her and pull her out around. And right as he does that, it's a good thing he had his foot there because the door slams on his foot. But he gets her out and then carries her to the car. And as he's getting in the car, he looks back to the house and he could see that this thing is running after them. But he don't waste no time. He pull out the driveway and he look in his rearview mirror and he can see this thing and it's screaming. It's not chasing him anymore, but he don't care. He put foot to gas and he gone. Wife still unconscious. But he drive for a short while. To him, what felt like hours. Until he found a motel for them for the night. He also pointed out, though, all while he was driving, it was like he could hear windows and glass just shattering. Which I can only imagine had to be terrifying. But the scariest part was the anxiety. The fact that not once did he take his eyes off his wife, and the fact that he couldn't. Because now that this thing getting smarter and intentional, she could probably switch out with his wife anytime, any moment. By the time they made it to the motel, his wife was still unconscious. But he still helped her into the room. He laid her on the bed and still didn't take his eyes off of her. But all he could think about was what happened earlier that day. And he looked back down into his hand and saw that it still had the word lucky burned into it. But before he knew it, she woke up. And I guess she saw the fear in his eyes because she said, "Don't worry, it's me." And he said he felt bad for doing this, but even though she said it's me, he went to go check her home and make sure that burn mark was still there. And it was. And he told her, "I'm sorry, but I had to be sure." And she said she couldn't even blame him. That she wanted him to feel safe around her, but she don't even know if she could trust herself. And she just looked sad and started crying. And, he agreed with her. He wanted to feel safe around her too. But this whole thing was just crazy. So now they sitting there just trying to figure out their next move. They know that it's probably not the best bet to go back to the grandma house. And they think it's dangerous to go back home. So while they sitting there thinking of a master plan, his wife all of a sudden remember her best friend from her childhood years. And she like, maybe we should contact him. As far as I know, the last time and the only time this ever happened was with him. What other choice do we have? So they get on the internet and do a bit of research, and eventually they're able to find him. And they find out that he's part of this group that holds public speakings and seminars for the visually impaired. And ironically, his next meeting is going to be in town next day. So the next day, that's what they do. They go to the seminar and they listen to him speak. And the husband made sure that he pointed out what he noticed at the end of the speech was that this man said the day he went blind was the last day he ever felt fear. Now, once the seminar ends and everybody starts to disperse, him and his wife are trying to figure out how to go up to him. You know, she hasn't seen him in years, and how do you even approach somebody with this situation? And as they trying to figure it out and they start walking towards him, all of a sudden, he come up to them. And even though he can't see, he smiles and turns right in her direction and says, "I knew you would come. She told me." So her and her husband looking like, okay. But then he continued to explain that he actually kept in touch with her great-grandmother over the years because she felt so bad about him losing his vision. And overall, she pretty much wanted to keep tabs on him because she figured if this happened once, it just might happen again. And of course, she wanted to prevent that from happening because whoever her great-grandbaby was going to be around, something bad was going to eventually happen to her. So he said how the grandmother went through all types of research, studying demonology and mythology and whatever she could get her hands on to try and figure out how to bind these sisters to her house. But when him and his wife hear this, they look at each other confused like, sisters? What do you mean, sisters? And the friend proceeds to tell them that when he went through what he went through with this thing, he could have sworn that before everything went black, that he saw another entity standing directly behind the first one. And because of that, the great-grandmother never really knew what to call them. She didn't know if they was doppelgangers, if they was mimics. She gets to know it was two of them, so she called them sisters. And he told them that maybe they should go talk to her. Maybe she could help. But of course, they told him they did that already. And when they got to her house, that everything seemed like it was just in disarray. Like, ain't nobody been in there for a long time. And he mentioned the weird red signs he saw all over the walls. And when he mentioned them signs, the friend was like, "Oh, it sounds like she tried to perform the ritual already to bind it to the house." Then he said, based off what y'all telling me, it don't sound like she survived it. Nor do it sound like it worked, because how come this other sister is able to follow my wife around anywhere and everywhere and even leave the house and get in the car and what? It's not making no sense. But they take all this in. And now the husband like, so what now? And the friend says, honestly, I don't think it's safe for y'all to be alone or to go back home. If you like, me and my wife would love to have you over for the night. She'll make dinner and everything. You're welcome. So the husband like, you know what? I could use a good night's sleep because I haven't been able to rest well because I don't know when this is going to be my real wife or not. Of course, he didn't say that in front of her, but that's how he was feeling. So they go over to the friend's house, and his wife was there, and she did prepare them dinner. And once it started getting late, him and a friend talked a little bit more, but they made a plan that the friend's wife and him would be the night watchers over his wife. Now, hopefully that wasn't confusing because I haven't given names. But the wife of the blind friend and the husband of the wife with the entity will be taking shifts to watch over the wife with the entity. And the blind man's wife's shift, the other husband wakes up in the middle of the night like he usually does because he's thirsty. And when he wakes up, he sees the wife just watching over his, so he's satisfied. But he goes up to her and asks, hey, where do you guys keep your water? She gets points to the kitchen. So he goes into the kitchen and he decides to check the refrigerator. He looks in there, he doesn't see the water. So he's looking around. He's like, where could this water be? And right before he goes back to ask her specifically, he decides to check this pantry. He checks the pantry, he doesn't see water in there. But he looks further back, deeper in the pantry, and he sees the blind man's wife tied up unconscious in the pantry. So all at once, all these thoughts come rushing in, and at the same time, it feels like time is moving in slow motion. Because if she's here, then who's watching over my wife in the living room? And it dawns on him that him and his wife was never safe. So he runs into the living room, and he see not only is the blind man's fake wife gone, but his wife is gone too. And the blind friend is still asleep on the couch. So he immediately starts to panic, and he wakes the friend up, and he's like, call the police. Your wife unconscious, and my wife is gone. She missing. It took her. So he trying to figure out what's his next move. And the best thing he could think of is the last time he saw this thing was at his wife's grandma's house. So maybe it took her there. And he rushes out the house, and he's driving down the driveway, and he get a call on his cell phone. And he sees it's his wife's name. He picks up the phone, and she like, where are you? He like, where am I? Where are you? She like, I don't know. Last time I remember, we fell asleep at my friend's house, but I'm at home. He like, you at home? She like, yes, please, just, can you meet me here, please? And he go quiet. He think about it. He say, your wrist, I mean your palm. And she like, the burn mark is here. It's me, please. Can you meet me here? And he thinks about it. And he tells her, okay. So he quickly gets off the phone, and he rushes to get to his wife. And as he's backing out of the driveway, he looks back at the house one last time. And when he looks back, he sees the entity standing in a window, watching him drive away. But when he looks closer, he sees the entity's eyes aren't black. This time they green. Just like his wife, but more green. But he brushes it off, and he rushes home. And when he gets home, before he can even make it to the door, his wife starts running out and runs into his arms. But he steps back, and he like, let me see your hand. She rolls her eyes, and she shows her hand, and she's like, it's me. But this time he doesn't feel bad, because at this point, he don't know who to trust. But when he takes her in and looks in her eyes, they're not green. They pitch black. After that day, some time went past, and that was his wife, but it wasn't his wife. It was like she was just sad all the time, like her happiness was stolen. And him and his wife and the friend and his wife, they never saw the entity again. But when the husband thinks about it and wonders, why did this thing draw us in to go to this friend's house, he figured maybe it wanted him to see what it took from them. His wife's pretty beautiful green eyes that he loves so much, and her joy. Now, as I mentioned in the caption, I got the story from Reddit, and that was the last update I read. So I hope you enjoyed the story. Side note, I really appreciate y'all so much. Like, even though y'all be deboing me in the comments, I appreciate y'all support. Also, some of y'all who told me to put my baby to bed. I only got one baby, and she not a baby, she a big girl. She 8. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And one last thing, if y'all really like the way I tell stories, I'm gonna be putting an email address up soon. Feel free to send me stories there, or you can DM me, and I also write my own stories. So if y'all interested in hearing the stories I write, let me know in the comments. I love y'all, and don't forget to like, follow, repost, and I'll see y'all next time.